All right. Wait for some folk to join. I give folks some time, just a little bit. So, just a little background. For those of you that don't know, my name is Anthony Highland. I attended Voorhees College for 4 years, and I gained my bachelor's degree in mass communications. It was definitely an experience that I can definitely say was well worth it. You need me? Oh, thought my wife called me. So my goal, ultimate goal rather, is to become a world-renowned public speaker. And I do believe that as long as you position yourself correctly, that you can obtain whatever it is that you want to obtain. So I wanted to start this series called Metaphorically Speaking, because I feel like a lot of the speeches and poems that I write, I'm a spoken word artist as well, centers around metaphors. So the topic for today is I want my penny back. And it spanned off from an experience I had, most like, any, I don't want to say regular person, but any everyday person. So I went to the dollar store and I got, I can't remember what was the purchase that I made, but I know it was 99 cents. And I gave the woman $1. And after the transaction, she said, "Oh, thank you. Have a nice day." So I'm standing there and I'm like awkwardly staring at her. And she's awkwardly staring at me back and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I want my penny back." And she looked at me as if I offended her. And I was like, "Wasn't this purchase 99 cents? She said, "Yes, sir." "Okay, I want my penny back." And oftentimes through life, I feel like we inadvertently give our penny away. Because the way I see it is, if 100 people go in and make a purchase. Now, this is very far-fetched to believe that, 100 people are going to buy one thing for 99 cents out of the dollar store. But, let's just run with that ideology. 100 people say, "You know what, I'm going to go buy something that's just $1. 99 cents rather. And they keep that penny. They have made an inadvertent dollar. So then we start thinking about if 200 people did it, that's $2. If 300 people did it, then that's three. You get what I'm saying? So through life, oftentimes what happens is we give so much of ourselves and don't realize that we deserve something in return. We don't always have to. We don't always have to give our full selves away. It's sort of like when you're giving someone advice. I'm sure a lot of us have had the experience that when you give someone some advice, in your mind if that person is really going to take your advice or if they're just doing it or asking rather just to see what you're going to say. And you say, "Oh man, I felt like I wasted my breath." No, you didn't waste your breath. I want my penny back. If you're not going to take my advice, don't ask for it. Because now, to me, you're inadvertently taking my penny from me. Because that penny, which would have been an inadvertent thought, could have been for someone else that could have utilized that or could have taken that and ran with it. I'll give you another example. And this to me was probably one of the most profound examples. When I was in college, I met this young lady named Promise. Now, I won't say her last name because, just for sake of identity purposes. But every time I would see her, I would say, "Hey, beautiful, how you doing? How's your day?" And she would say, "Oh, my day is good, blah, blah, blah." Now, whether or not she was beautiful on the outside, that didn't matter to me. But she had a beautiful heart and a beautiful spirit. And I felt like that was something that should have been recognized, even if no one else did. So one day, I felt myself moving very quickly from the position that I was in the dormitory all the way through to the chapel. And I passed her. And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I kept on walking. So she said, "Ahem." So I turned around and I'm like, "What's up? Did I do anything?" And she was like, "You forgot something." So I'm like, "Okay." She said, "You didn't say 'hey, beautiful' to me." And at that time, sometimes when you're moving so fast through your thought process and through your day, You don't realize the impact that you have on others. And she said to me, you didn't say, hey, beautiful. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that meant so much to you. She said, well, you're the only person on campus that calls me beautiful every day, and it makes my day. So to her, I was taking her penny from her. She was not receiving what she felt like she should have been getting. So every day when I gave her that, when she gave me that dollar of that experience, I was only giving her 99 cents. And I wasn't giving her her penny back. And I started to think, how many times through life do we allow people to take our penny from us? Do we give so much and expect so little? Some people feel like you have to expect things from others when you give it to them. And I don't necessarily feel like that's the case, because when you have a gift, my grandma always told me your gift will make room for your talent. And I started to think, what is the parallel between the two? Gift, talent. Talent is something that you work at, something that you go over and over again. I can remember when I was competing for the Mr. HBCU pageant. There was so much pressure on my back. I felt like the odds were against me, and that I just wasn't going to make it. And as much confidence as I have, it was very difficult for me. And it was hard for people to conceptualize that. So I said, okay, I'm going to go into this with a positive attitude. I practiced every day. When I went to chow, when I went to class, on the way to class, I would listen to my speech in my ears. I was just going through it so much. But the gift is in the way in which I deliver when I get on stage. And a lot of us, sometimes we confuse our gifts with our talents. And our gifts are something that we are inadvertently born with. I feel. This is just my personal opinion. So whomever it is you believe, I believe in Jesus, God, the Holy Father, so I don't want to, offend anyone, but I believe that God gives us certain gifts when we are born. And when we don't utilize those gifts, we are inadvertently taking a penny from someone. You know how people say, I'm going to give you a penny, for our thoughts. I spoke one of my poems at a suicide prevention program. And I didn't feel like I gave my all during the performance. So I left the stage not feeling fulfilled, but feeling satisfied. And I feel like when you get on stage, or when you grab a microphone, or when you have an audience, period, you have a responsibility. When you stand up in front of a classroom, before I joined, for those of you that don't know, I joined the United States Navy. So before I joined the Navy, I was a school teacher. And I felt like every time I stepped in front of my kids, my 6th and 7th graders, I had a responsibility to not only give them what was in that textbook, but also what was up here. Because there were a lot of life experiences that I had and that I experienced that at their age, I feel like they could conceptualize. My 7th graders. Now, my 6th graders, they were more so like, not really sure what life's about. I think I like other people. Let me just play Pokemon. Okay, cool. Play Pokemon. Let's learn these parts of speech. So what happens is, when I got on stage at the suicide prevention program, a young lady came to me afterwards, and she said, your poem really inspired me, and I was going to commit suicide right after I left here. But your poem inspired me, and I decided I'm going to live. I have something to live for. And the poem, to me, talks a lot about how we expect so much from other people, and we neglect ourselves. We give so much, and I know I keep saying that, but I want to really put an emphasis on that. We give so much to other people, but we neglect ourselves. And if you can't strengthen yourself, how do you expect to strengthen other people? That's a struggle that I feel like a lot of us deal with on a consistent basis. And to me, personal development and personal growth is a lot more important than sharing with others. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you can't holistically say that in some way, shape, form, or fashion, I have it together, how can you help others? Not saying that it's not possible. Again, this is just my personal opinion. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are enlightening others, inspiring others, motivating others. But if you're not motivated, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that that energy, that vibe. Hey, this is not you. You need to get it together. Also, for those of you, I'm going to take a quick note. For those of you that may want to shoot me some questions, I can see the chat on the bottom of the screen, so I'll answer them kind of as I go along. So if you have a question, feel free to ask. I'm rounding about the end, kind of circling my thoughts. So for those of us that feel like we give so much on a daily basis that we receive nothing in return, I say to that, work on your personal growth and your personal development. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to cheat yourself. You don't want to take that penny from yourself. Make sure you throw that dollar in your savings account. Now, don't put 99 cents in there if you know you have that $1, because you feel like, oh, I might need a McChicken, No, put the whole dollar in there. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself, because when you invest in yourself, it's a lot easier to invest in others, because you've given all of what you have, even if it's your last. I'm going to give you all this last example. Then I'm going to, I don't want to say open the floor for questions, but if anyone has any questions, they can definitely feel free to drop them below. So I was in Philadelphia. That's where I'm from. And there were some experiences that I had, and I felt like, I should have been doing something different. So I was walking downtown, and there was this guy that was asking, for some money or whatever the case may be. And I gave it to him. Gave him all of the money in my pocket. At that point, God said to me, empty your pocket. So I emptied my pocket. Now, I had a token, to get back on the bus to get home, and maybe I think $5 to $7. And I gave him that money. And afterwards, I was just thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to get home? How am I going to get home? So once I got to my workshop for Philadelphia Youth Poetry Movement, shout out PYPM, my mentor said, hey, do you need help getting home? And I didn't even ask. So to me, if I would have kept that money in my pocket, I would have been inadvertently taking that penny out of that man's pocket, because that was something that he needed, obviously. And God said, you know what? I'm going to orchestrate a way for you to get that back tenfold. And my mentor gave me $10, 5 more than I originally had, as well as 2 tokens, for the day and for the next day. So to wrap this up, I just want to say, don't allow anyone to take your penny from you. When you're giving all of what you have, and when you're giving your all to something, go at it full force, and don't allow anyone to take your penny. Thank you.